be seated. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It won't shock you, because you know me after 6 months, maybe, if I tell you that Christianity isn't about doctrines or dogmas or even practices. Christianity is about relationship, relationship, relationship. Relationship with God and with one another and with everyone and everything else. Yeah, it's a big relationship. Yeah. The familial intimacy that is the context of the Christian community rose out of those two ancient cultures that held family in such great esteem, if not sacrosanct. That is ancient Judaism and ancient paganism, both of which grounded their social ethic in the institution of the family small and the family large, the extended family. As young Mayor Daley in Chicago would ask you when you showed up at a meeting with him, who are your people? And by that, he wanted to know which parish, which Catholic parish you were raised in, what was your ethnic group, and who were your political representatives. He was a real operator. He knew how to do it. So the early church community took these terms of intimacy, sisters and brothers, and used that as one of their first self-identifications. The book of Acts has that in there. The book of Acts also says that the first apostolic council used sisters and brothers to apply to Gentiles, a big statement at the time, thus bringing them into the fold of the church too. To be a believer in Jesus Christ meant for them that one is born again into the family of God, and the hallmark of the family of God is that the members love one another. To love a sister or a brother, or later fathers and mothers as authority figures developed, was the mark of being a Christian. Matter of fact, what is that book in the Bible where it says if you don't love your brother or sister, then you cannot even be a Christian? What is that? What is that? James? What is that? What is that? Or is that 1 John? It's one of those. So if you can't love your brother or sister, you're not even a Christian, says this early witness. Now, given sisters and brothers, mothers and fathers, it's not surprising that another great intimacy metaphor, particularly from the Hebrew Scriptures, has been brought over to the church, and that is the intimacy metaphor of marriage. Isaiah, writing in the 6th century for us, used it. Israel was in exile in Babylon, and people were bereft politically, socially, and spiritually. Many believe that since they were geographically separated from the land of Israel, the God of Israel couldn't be with them in Babylon because the God of Israel was sort of geographically bound to the land of Israel. So many believed that God had abandoned them. Remember Psalm 137, by the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept for Zion. Our captor said, sing a song of Zion. How can we sing a song of Zion in a foreign land? Well, Isaiah says, oh yes you can. This morning, you shall no more be termed forsaken, and your land shall no more be termed desolate. Get over it. You're not separated. But you will be called, my delight is in her, called Hephzibah. Hephzibah in ancient Hebrew. Can you say that? Hephzibah, isn't that fun? Hephzibah, my delight is in her. And your land will be called married. Beulah. Can you say Beulah? Beulah. Hephzibah and Beulah. My delight is in her and married. For the Lord delights in you, and your land shall be married. For as a young man marries a young woman, so shall your builder marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. Nix, forsakenness, and desolation. Like a bridegroom quivering for his bride, and like a bride quivering for her bridegroom, so God quivers for us. For us. God is quivering for us. Whew. Marriage, I think, is also a helpful metaphor. I've thought about this on and off for 30 years, having been a parish priest. Marriage is a good metaphor, I think, to understand the relationship between a rector and a parish. Now, the relationship is more than an employer-employee relationship. And there's a point where the metaphor of marriage breaks down like all metaphors do. But the main thrust of the image, I think, holds, and is faithful to the witness of both testaments. How is the rector-parish relationship like a marriage? Well, first, discernment of who is to come as a rector is much more than the facts of the resume. Educated here, served there, hobbies this, and vocational goal that. Name, rank, and serial number will not do on a date, will it? Our search committee will want to ask the candidates what makes them tick. What excites them about this ministry and their ministry? What are your great strengths and what are your growing edges? Are these not the same questions you ask on a date? The first date with someone who's going to be your beloved, right? Don't you ask questions like this? If you don't ask them up front, it don't get any better. So you're asking your potential life mate or intimate friend these same questions. Don't we want to know what they're like when they're frustrated or angry? Isn't that important to know about a life partner? What are they like under pressure? Is there consonance between exterior behavior and interior life? Can I trust what he or she is saying to me? Does she and he walk the talk? Is his articulation of his hopes and dreams consonant with what I hope and dream? And finally, does this person excite me? How do you articulate the calculus of excitement? I don't know. It's great holy mystery. Excitement. Does this person excite me? And if we don't find this out when dating, the answers to these questions become obvious all too soon and perhaps too late. So, candidate for rector of St. Thomas of Canterbury Parish, let me ask you questions like we're on a speed dating show. What is your vision for a parish? Gobs of kids, lively music, relevant preaching, warm welcome at the door? Okay, sounds good. But just how have you gotten gobs of kids in churches you've served in the past? And how have you organized a warm greeting at the door? What matters to you leading a congregation? Describe your relationship in the past with vestries and other authority bodies. What are you like in conflictual situations? Tell me a story of conflict and how you've experienced it, survived it, or maybe even managed it. Ask these questions of a fiancé or partner, and chances are the marriage relationship will go well. Don't ask these questions, well, you know where that can lead. And not surprising, any candidate worth her or his salt is going to be on a speed dating with us all, too, with our search committee and vestry, trying to figure out these very same things in such a short time. My goodness. What are you like? Can I trust you? Where are you going? Do you love Jesus? All this stuff, you've just got to intuit, really, in this calculus, and then make an informed step forward. So friends, what do you expect from your clergy? What do you expect from your clergy? What do you expect from your rector? You know, Al and I joined Our Lady in the Valley, and so we specifically chose Chloe to be our rector. So ultimately, I think what we want in our rector is something more than a functionary, more than an employee. I think we want a real person who can be real with us about what's really going on in our lives. Someone to rejoice when I rejoice, someone to weep when we weep, to grieve when we grieve, and to laugh when we laugh. I particularly want vision, I want humor, and I want ease of being in the world. Now, who doesn't want to be around a person of vision and humor? Great jokes help, and ease of being in the world. In the Canterbury communication coming out this week, the vestry will present to the congregation the members of the search committee. We're voting on that and discussing that for the final time this afternoon, so please keep the vestry in your prayers, especially from 11:30 to 2. Vestries and the search committee will not need extraordinary skills or gifts to accomplish the discernment of our next rector on our behalf. It's not extraordinary gifts, it's everyday gifts. They need just to look and to listen to these candidates as though they were on dates with them, intuiting what kind of person they are, what is their character, indeed, what is their soul like? Imagine trying to figure that out about yourself, let alone somebody else. But it's part of the calculus that has to be done. Discernment is not rocket science. It's the human art of listening deeply to what is said and to recognize in yourself when your gut goes, mm-hmm, or your gut goes, meh, or your gut goes, So simple, right? So complex, so important, and so doable. Those of us who have been in long-term relationships know that we can never really know our partner totally. Anybody that's figured out their wife partner totally, let me talk to me afterwards. We'll write a book. It is the rough and tumble of daily life over many years where you learn the strengths and weaknesses of the person you have committed yourself to. And it's the same for clergy, right? We can find out as many facts about Ted before we call him as our interim rector, but it's only over the months and the years of our time together that we can settle in to know what Ted does great and what the congregation does great. What Ted don't do so good and what the congregation don't do so good. To settle in, ultimately, to that fierce and clear leadership which this parish needs at this time. So here's a prayer that Isaiah would appreciate. May rector and entire congregation call one another Hephzibah. Hephzibah, my delight is in her. May rector and what's that? You're stealing my stuff, man. The second part of the prayer. May rector and congregation always be called Beulah. Married. And may they rejoice over one another and consider themselves lucky to have found one another from the beginning of the relationship